if people want to make, 10 grand a month and they're happy with that, cool. If they want to make $1 million a month, then cool. Again, to me, it's about creating life with intention and building that world that you wake up every day and you're like, yes.
Building a business is tough and doing it alone even tougher. Welcome to She Talks, your go-to podcast for raw, relatable, and ridiculously useful business advice. I'm Lisa Jones, and I'm both a mum and a serial entrepreneur, and I'm here to help share real stories and proven strategies to help you scale up your business. Let's do this together. Ever felt trapped in the daily grind, knowing there's a better way to build your life? Then this episode is for you. I'm Lisa Jones, and today I'm joined by Athena Severi, Amazon powerhouse, serial entrepreneur, and co-founder of Titan Network. Now, Athena has helped countless sellers scale to 7 and 8 figures, and she's here to break down the biggest misconceptions about Amazon, how to know if it's the right fit for your brand, and the strategies top sellers use to grow fast. We also talk about the power of community and the mindset shifts that separate those who dream from those who don't. Now, if you're ready to rethink what's possible for your business, then I can't wait to share this episode with you today. Amazon is like this holy grail because everybody in Australia wants to be on Amazon in the US. And we have this really weird thing that's happened for us here in Australia. And I literally had the conversation yesterday with one of my team who is an Amazon seller. And she said, when I was an Amazon seller, it was all about building yourself up on Amazon and then going to Shopify. But here in She.com in Australia, we start everyone on Shopify and then we talk about going to Amazon. So I'm so fascinated to have the conversation with you today because for listeners, whether you are already on Amazon or whether you're on Shopify or an equivalent, it's more marketplace, more geographic scope, it's more opportunity to sell. So we need to seriously talk about Amazon. And I want to take it over to you now, Athena, for a minute. I just read a really fascinating article about you and they called you the Amazon Queen. And I know you mentioned too that you didn't do high school. So I want to know, tell me your story. How did Amazon come about for you?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I've always been this kind of wild entrepreneur. I decided not even to set foot in high school. I was always building little carnivals and businesses and lemonade stands, anything I could do. And then I found myself actually working in Hollywood. I would do fashion shows and events, and I'd work with artists. It was a nonprofit. So I really became fascinated in connecting people with people who were successful in their field. What was very interesting to me is in Hollywood, you would get these coaches that had never actually had success. And so it was kind of difficult for people to really learn from someone if they've never actually achieved what you wanted to achieve. So that was a big kind of aha moment for me. Then I got married really young and I had my first son. So I kind of had to leave the whole Hollywood scene and I had to get a normal job at a consulting firm. And I found myself with my first son, I was able to get him in preschool. I was okay. But with my second boy, for whatever reason, he's just this yummy boy with the biggest eyes. And I just remember having to turn him over to daycare and he was not ready and neither was I. And every morning that I'd have to do that was just tragedy for me because I felt trapped. And then I naturally build community. A lot of what Titan and everything they've ever built in any industry. I mean, even I was dating a bassist and I would create concerts around him. You know what I mean? Just so I could say I was dating a rock star. So I just love community. I became a mom. I decided to build this whole world. They were called Ladies with Babies, still exist today. And I remember every morning just, saying I feel so bad to leave my boy behind. And I'm sitting at this job and I'm looking around and everyone there had been there for 10, 20, sometimes 30 years. And some of these people were in their 60s now. Their bodies are deteriorating. Their children have grown and they're looking forward to quote unquote retirement where they might get to have a bit more vacation. But at this point, their life is at least 2/3, if not more over. Right. And I said to myself, this is not for me. I hate having to give up my child, my freedom for a job that looks like a dead end. So I tried different things, had failed. And there was actually a friend of mine who's quitting his full-time 6-figure job to sell kitchen products on Amazon. And I was like, that's a joke, right? You're not actually selling kitchen products. You're not quitting your job. He's like, actually I am. So he invited me to lunch. He showed me his Seller Central account. And he was making in a few weeks what would take us months at our job. And that moment, my darling, was the moment that I was like, whatever the heck that is, I want a piece of that. And so that is where I found this magical world called Amazon. And I launched my first brand.
And I understand from your pre-podcast questionnaire that you actually have 16 brands as well as Titan Network. So I would say that it sounds like that bug that bit you has like bit you good, girl.
Yes, absolutely. So my first product was a yoga headband. And what I did was I found an opportunity, and that's a lot of what you do on Amazon is you have to find these opportunities where there are headbands on the platform. They were all on these like white styrofoam sort of mannequins. There were no beautiful faces or models. And I took what was just a simple headband. I made it different styles, different fabrics, called them fun things like sangria, and just kind of made it playful. And I was able to quit a job that I'd been at for 8 years in 4 months.
Incredible.
And that was game changing for me. So then at this point, we've got, okay, so this is a moment. I have the photo, Lisa. I have to show it to you. I have a photo of me at the zoo on a Tuesday with my then 2-year-old. And it was just like, I love being an entrepreneur. So all of a sudden I had all these women going, I want that too. Like, we don't want to be at our dead end jobs. Like, hook me up, Athena. And that's actually where I found myself in this bit of a mentor position, even though I was quite new, because other people wanted that success. And so I'm a natural networker, and I started to build out finding the most successful people I could, seminars, events, a cruise, which led me to the rest of what we're about to talk about. But that's kind of the general story in a nutshell.
And our listeners will be able to, I guess, really deeply resonate with a lot of what you shared because you know, a couple of things, the mummy piece for all of us who've had to drop our kids at daycare, it's a soul crushing thing when they give you their big puppy dog eyes and the tears start and you think, wait, what? It's definitely something relatable to all of the listeners now, but so is this idea of freedom from the grind, from working for the man, you know, that your story is so similar to mine, but in completely different versions. And I also could never work for the man ever again. I just would wither up and die. And I'm 7 companies in the last 14 years, and I'm on my 3rd multi-million-dollar brand. And I love being the boss, right? I couldn't have it any other way. I think I'm not employable is actually probably how it looks, because I would be like, you made what decision? Like, why would you do that? Like, they would be like, get out, just get out.
I love you so much. Yes, 1000%.
It's true, right? And I think a lot of our listeners will relate to this whole conversation because there's an element of freedom that we desire to have our own business, but there's also, we need to have a method to get there or a vehicle in which to create freedom and to create an income. And I think for a lot of women, that's a D2C Shopify store or an Amazon brand. They're kind of two halves of a whole and often the same, but often different. And I think we probably have a lot of audience over on the Amazon side that are not doing the D2C piece that we are, but both are product brands and both give women the ability to have a side hustle that can turn into like a very big empire. And that's what's exciting about what we're going to talk about. So I am very inspired by your story and the community building pieces, but I really, for our listeners today, want to break down the whole concept of Amazon. And I think for us, certainly in Australia, where the majority of our listenership is, Amazon is a bit of it's an unknown beast often. So we definitely have incredible women here who have built brands on Amazon in the States, like you started down that route and it can work. But we also have a lot of probably more often listeners who have got a D2C brand. They sell on Shopify. Amazon in Australia is okay, but it hasn't really taken off for a lot of the smaller product brands here. And they all probably hold the US and Amazon up as a bit of a holy grail. So I guess I'm wondering if you could share today on the potty, like, what are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about joining Amazon?
Absolutely. So there's a few things. First of all, you can find opportunity on any platform anywhere, right? So I think one misconception is like, oh, you need to have started 10 years ago. I know brands that have gotten to 7 figures on Amazon within months, in as recently as this last year, right? So you can build a multi-million-dollar brand, an 8-figure brand today. So I think that's one misconception. There are specific opportunities, and we have actually built a software to help people figure out if a product makes sense or not, right? There's certain criteria and it's very easy to punch in. Like if you have products, you can figure out what are the products that are going to be the most winning products on the platform based on search terms, based on the competition, based on a few different factors. And so especially if you have, several products, you can figure out like which are the ones you want to start with. I agree with you. Whether you're starting on Shopify or Amazon, you are building a brand. And I think that that's one of the things that is really important. We've been talking so much about omni-channel, Lisa. We just came back from our event, our 4-day events in Cancun, where we had, just everyone in that room was a 7 or 8-figure seller. And all we talked about that entire time was omni-channel, omni-channel, omni-channel. Why? Because some people are going to go on your Shopify site and they're a bit lazy to put their credit card in. And so they'll actually go to Amazon, shop your brand. And if you don't have a presence on there, you could be missing sales. Same with the way that you guys are able to create this beautiful brand and product discovery that doesn't happen so much in the same way on Amazon. So I really believe that it's very cohesive. And if you want to build value, now here's something that we talk a lot about. If you can build a brand, there is also the exit potential of that brand and to create real enterprise value. If you have a presence in different platforms, that really makes a lot of sense. When it comes to the US, there are we've got a whole segment of Australian sellers. We actually have a time zone to do our weekly meetings just for Australia. We hosted an event. I love my Aussies. I brought my kids with me to visit you. We held koalas. My little boy surfed in the Gold Coast, and I have an older one who's a bit shy, a bit more introverted, and I have a little one who's got way too much game for his own well-being, and he was flirting with all the cute little surfer girls in Australia. It was hilarious. Yeah, big fan of your country and your beautiful energy, but there's definitely like so much opportunity on US. So you can definitely break into the US market via Amazon, and so that's a really good thing. And a lot of the reason I created any of this with my business partner, Dan Ashburn and Lyden Smithers, is because there's a lot of Amazon how to get started type courses, but they don't go deep enough. And that's a huge issue in our industry. And so we actually built a full operating platform where we built the software, the strategy, we have coaching, we have mentoring, we even have a done for you service. So whether you want to do it yourself or you want to get somebody to help you, there's so much opportunity in that US market. I would love if you have some questions that people ask about Amazon, because most of my guys are like already on Amazon. So do you know of like any of the fears or apprehensions?
Definitely. And I want to say as well, like omnichannel and the new version of omnichannel, which is unified commerce, it's the way that we have to build a product brand these days, because we have to be found in multiple places. And, you're right. We talk here in Australia about Amazon being a search engine, which it is. And obviously in America, then the stats are way higher than Australia. I think in the US, you're like 60 or 70% of all search terms are done on Amazon, not Google. Here in Australia, it's already like 18 to 20%. So I think even just being on Amazon as a product brand gives us more opportunity to sell, even if it drives the traffic back to our Shopify stores and vice versa. I completely agree with the concept of omnichannel. So I love that you guys are talking about that. And interestingly, we go to a conference every year. I'm just about to head off to Vegas in a couple of days to go to it again, which is called Shop Talk. And they talk a lot there about unified commerce, which is the latest kid on the block, the latest saying thrown around, which is, I suppose, taking it all and putting it on speed, which means different pieces feed automatically to each other. And I love this too. And I don't know how Amazon feeds into this, but certainly the concept of, a bike store that somebody wants to get a quote for a bike in a bike store and then gets emailed a link and then purchases it home later. So it's unifying the experience of purchasing through multiple touch points in multiple places. And I think Amazon probably feeds really nicely into that piece too, even if it's the reviews piece, the credibility and authority piece. And I think I will confess, I'm an Amazon Prime absolute advocate. I am a ridiculous shopper, Athena. Like if you could see, obviously listeners, this is a podcast and Athena can just see me in my head, but if I could show her around my wardrobe, which is a whole bedroom or my house or my office, you would know that I am an insane consumer. And the great thing about that for me is that I call myself a super shopper, and I wear two hats then, like an e-commerce expert and a super shopper. And I love and obsessed with Amazon Prime from the perspective of a buyer because I get free delivery. It comes really quickly and I use it as a search engine. And then I look for credibility on there as well. So we'll go and look at reviews. And I think brands that can set themselves up and be really credible really early on Amazon with fabulous reviews and really great marketing and representation, it's just another channel to market. It's so clever.
Oh, yeah.
Can you give us some examples? Like, I know that women will like tangible stories about brands that have perhaps started on something like Shopify and come over and nailed it on Amazon. That would be a really great story. Sorry to put you on the spot, but if you can think of a great brand that you know.
So here's one. There's a brand called Happy Nuts, right? And it's actually a hilarious brand. It's men's like products for his grooming. Yeah. And they use a lot of humor. They've gone super viral, and they actually created a women's brand called Happy Curves, which is doing fantastic as well. And these guys, like, they have their Shopify presence, they have their Amazon presence, they're actually in retail now. And so that is that full presence overall. But this brand, when it started working with us, they were doing about 20,000 a month. They're doing about 30 million a year now, right? And this is just a couple years of expansion. So it is incredible what you can do when you have not just one item, but like they have a full line, right? And so there's a lot of like frequently bought together, and then you find the humor, and then you want to follow them on Instagram, and then their product, when you open it, there's just like so many little jokes and innuendos inside of the product. And so that kind of leads you back to kind of, and then they've got all these really funny jokes. And so you're sharing them to your friends, and like, they just nailed it. You know what I mean? They just nailed it. And that's a very good example of a brand that is literally just like powder, right? And like deodorant and things, but they just repackaged the whole thing, added personality, added humor, and built a $30 million brand in just a couple of years.
This is the most incredibly perfect story for us to break down today. I love the idea of trying to find the elements for this and breaking them out for our listeners. So let's do it. What I heard is virility. And over here at SheCon, we talk a lot about viral short form video content and or the ability for people to be entertained at the same time as they're buying. Because if a brand is boring, it's got a lot less chance of being interesting, which means a lot less chance of selling, right? So break that down for me, and perhaps any lessons that you've learned from other brands as well that have nailed, say, let's call it entertainment as a topic.
Absolutely. So this one, I mean, if you just search them, you'll fully understand. I mean, even just the way that they're packaging the two balls, the whole thing, it's absolutely absurd and hilarious. And we absolutely love it. But like, here's another one, Coffee Gator. Coffee accessories, but what they do with their copy is so cheeky. And when you're opening the box, it's just so much fun. And it's like, it's that whole user experience. Like, they talk about Apple so much and how much they've spent in research just in the way that each little box opens. Well, you can do the same thing with your products. And I think that that's something that's so important. I mean, if you look at even Liquid Death as an example, that's a brand that just absolutely blew up, and it's just water packaged. I think it's in Australia. Okay, so this is a brand that literally repackaged water using cans with like a death skull on the front of it. It's water, and is a $1 billion company. You know, we've got a guy that sells pillowcases, and he made pillowcases so damn sexy. And so everything about his vibe and the social and everything. So it's like, all you need to do is find some products, add personality and spin, and what you said about virality. And you can really, I mean, there's endless possibilities as long as you get creative and put your own sort of twist on things.
Sometimes you just need someone to look at your business and tell you exactly what to do next. That's where our quick wins calls come in. In just 60 minutes, we'll deep dive into your brand, your numbers, your marketing, and we're going to find those small but mighty tweaks that can make a huge difference in your sales. If you feel like you're spinning your wheels, then let's book a call and find your next quick win together. Head to shecon.co to book your free call today. You know what I love about this is I think, and I'm sure the same exists in Amazon, but over here in the D2C product world in general, people assume that you need to launch a product that is new or unique. And what I love about the stories you just shared is that those products are not. They will have repackaged or reformulated existing things, but they added a spin to it. And I think keeping a product fresh and current is so exciting in our world of products. And I think that the packaging and the delivery of entertainment and the virility, that's all most definitely there. But let's talk a bit more than that. Let's talk omnichannel, and let's go back to the ball sack brand, which you'll remind me the name of it is
Happy Nuts.
Happy Nuts. So
Yes.
let's go back to Happy Nuts for a minute. So in Australia, we might call them ball sacks. I don't know if that's a thing in the States. There's like all these segues between different languages.
I love it.
Happy Nuts, right. I'm assuming then they're on TikTok and Instagram, and they will be most definitely on Shopify and Amazon. And I'm so interested in where they're driving their traffic to from socials. And we talk about this in our team, even some of our coaches that do both Amazon and Shopify. It's like, well, when we have promotions or when we have really great videos go viral, where are we sending our traffic to? Tell us how you navigate an omni-channel. And of course, you also mentioned they're in bricks and mortar stores. So when you're in actual physical stores as well, like where are you driving your traffic to?
I mean, right now, this is just their Instagram. I think it also just depends on what type of products you have. Some of them are much more TikTokable. Some of them, it also depends on the demographic of your audience, right? Because, for example, my kids tell me Facebook is for old people and for millennials, right? And I'm like, stop it. It's still fabulous. Okay. And like, we're on Instagram. I think Instagram's pretty universal, but there's some products that are like, just TikTok all the way, certain influencers. So it really does also kind of depend on what type of products and who your audience is. I think the more mature, like I've seen so many brands go completely viral on the weirdest channels. Like we had one go viral on LinkedIn. Okay. Like who's looking for products on LinkedIn? Nobody that I knew of, right? But there's just so many different channels and pockets that you can use. And it's just a matter of getting creative and really knowing your audience. And one of the things that we love to do is even like go into physical stores and talk to the people. You know what I mean? Like if you have a high-end kitchen brand, there's a kitchen store called Sur La Table that's for people who are spending way too much money on like an avocado slicer, right? And so go talk to Mr. Avocado Slicer who's spending $30 on a stupid thing and ask him like, hey, where do you normally shop outside of here? Talk to your actual audience, get to know them, because it's really interesting how you start to pull that string and you'll start to see like, how do they shop? What interests them? And then you can figure out what platforms are going to be the best. But in reality, these days, what you can do is just chop up your social media and just go nuts, like put it on every channel, depending on, YouTube, then you take those, you make those shorts, and then you go over to Instagram. Like you just keep like, that's what these guys do. And that's what's been most effective.
And where are they driving sales to then? If you've got Shopify and Amazon and bricks and mortar stores, are you driving it to all three? Or is there some kind of secret source around sending them to Amazon and then people will go shopping from there? Or like, how does that work?
It really also depends on the brand, because I know people that are just like super, super heavy. We had a guy in Cancun who's doing 85 million on Shopify, but he's only doing 30 million on Amazon, right? And so obviously he's driving a lot more traffic over to his Shopify store. The margins are slightly better on that for him. But you also have the juice of Amazon being that it's a search engine. So you start to get all those organic sales that you don't have to pay for. You're not paying for the traffic. So I think it really depends. And one of the things that we love to do in Titan is we will meet with you one-on-one. We're going to find out, what are your goals? What is your freedom number, we call it, which is the number that allows you to have the freedom financially, location, and time-wise that really is going to drive your entire life forward. And then based on the type of products you have, some of them are not great for Shopify, but they're fantastic for Amazon. Some, are fantastic for Shopify and not so good on Amazon. Like there are some products that are just better off on certain platforms, but ideally you're creating these beautiful, high quality products that are going to immerse themselves in all platforms. So we actually have a TikTok expert, a Shopify expert, a retail expert, and we have tremendous amount of information on Amazon. And that way we're able to kind of like differentiate which way to go.
Are there any brands that are not suitable for Amazon or mistakes that people make taking their brand to Amazon that you could help us with?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Size matters in this case. So, there are certain products that just because of the cost of certain things, it might not make sense. There's certain products that are very saturated. The market's low. There's just, there's different things. For example, if you're going to try to get into cell phone cases on Amazon, there's thousands of cell phone cases. So unless you have like a real edge or some reason that you're special, it might not be a good opportunity unless you're a rock star and you really understand the platform. Example, this brand, Smartish, he made me my own little Athena cell phone case here. He's doing 10 million in cell phone cases. So this is a unique brand. Again, packaging, humor, all the things. So there's definitely a way to carve things out. One of the first brands that actually got started on Amazon is called Zule. They're one of the biggest kitchen brands in the world, and they specialize in selling the same stuff that everyone else does. Spatulas, lemon squeezers, garlic presses, all the things that we kind of say to stay away from. He decided to be cheeky and go straight for it. And if you look him up, Zule is one of the top 100 brands on Amazon. And that was, one of the first guys I took to China with me. And that's also something that I think is really important. If you can just put a bit of a spin or a bit of a twist on something, you can take a product that might not be fantastic for Amazon, but you tweak it a little bit. You make it either a little cheaper, you make it smaller, you make it lighter, you somehow differentiate it. And you can definitely take a product that might not be something that's great for Amazon and apply certain things to Amazon. I'll give you an example. We have a pearl specialist, gorgeous human being who does fantastic on his own Shopify site with his very high-end pearls. But on Amazon, it didn't translate well. And so he actually found a much cheaper version of this beautiful jewelry that he could sell on Amazon at a fraction of the price because it just wasn't the right vibe on that platform. So that's a good example of how you can kind of tweak your brand and use your traffic and know your audience. And then he's been able to build a tremendous brand on Amazon just because he actually understood his different audiences.
That's a really good point, because just recently on the potty, I had another lady being interviewed who has a very existing brand for bathroom cleaning products and kitchen cleaning products. And it's high end and it's natural and organic and it's really beautiful. And forever, everybody told her, don't bastardize your current brand by bringing an affordable budget version out in the same vertical, right? You're just going to take market share from one to the other. And eventually she did it and she was like, it was bullshit. It was incredible. Like, I should have done it years and years ago. And I love the idea for people that if a product doesn't match one or the other, or even if it does, what's stopping you from having multiple different brands in the same category, right? Have you seen that work really successfully for brands?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because again, you want to understand your audience. You understand who you're marketing to. You understand what they buy at what price point, and you have to have data. And so to us, there's kind of two pieces of this. There's sort of the touchy-feely, artistic, human side where you really understand the human element and the creative, right? But then there's the straight data and the numbers, and we love both. Right? You have to have that creative side of your brain and you have to have the data side, and the data doesn't lie. It shows you the conversion. It shows you what people click on. It shows you so much information that you can then apply that to your brand and then shape what products. You can see what they're searching for and what converts, right? And so if you can see like even your brand, you'll see your brand being searched for and then a couple keywords afterwards, like cheaper, smaller, on sale, things like that. And if people continue to do that, you can literally look up your brand on Google. Like if you have a significant brand, you can see if they're saying on sale, that tells you there's a huge market for a lower price point on this. Maybe it's a smaller bottle, right? Maybe the one that you have is a premium and it's 32 ounces. Maybe there's something to doing a 16 ounce and not even messing with the price so much. But because now they got the 16 ounce and they're super in love with it, maybe they're going to start buying the 32 ounce one, right? So there's so many ways that you can play with this.
I saw this a lot in the hair industry, like shampoos and conditioners, that people would, the same companies would have 6 or 7 different brands, everything from $8 a bottle to $80 a bottle. And they really largely changed some fragrances and put a few different oils in and a new packaging brand, and pachung, we're all buying the $80 shampoos because we think it's going to give us better hair generation, right? So I'm assuming the same thing happens at Amazon.
Oh, 1,000%. And a brand who's fully nailed this, in my opinion, is Olaplex. I don't know if you guys are obsessed with Olaplex over there, but you can get the $100 version and you can get the like $12 version, but it's this big. And online, you can't really tell that it's only this big. And so you're like, oh, let me go ahead and try that. Or they have like a little travel kit for $46. And they're all these little bitty bottles, but then you try it and you're like, ooh, my hair's so soft. And now you're buying the, $96 version of it. And so there's just so many ways that you can play. And you can also see the research, like if people are asking for certain fragrances, or in the supplement world, supplements are such a fun adventure, by the way. We've got some massive brands that are in supplements, and you can see like people are looking for certain combinations. Okay, great. Let's try that. You know what I mean? People are looking for fragrances. And I think so it's very fun. There's two ways to do it. There's getting the audience to be obsessed with the products you already have, or figuring out what the audience is looking for and then just creating that. And I think if you do a combo of both, you're really going to nail it.
And then there's trends. So let's talk about 2025. I saw a really interesting article this morning around in the US, you've got the Poppy soda brand, and I think Olipop as well. And I was just fascinated to see Poppy sold this week, I think for like $2 billion or something, right? So bought by Pepsi Cola. And for listeners, what I found fascinating about this is that these two brands in the States in particular are like probiotic soda drinks, right? Like, so they're better for you, allowing you to still feel like you're getting a, Coca-Cola hit or a Sprite hit, but not with all of the negative health connotations that those traditional sodas have. And I love the idea that things move and evolve. And clearly so does Pepsi Cola, because they just went and spent $2 billion to acquire a brand that is in this category that they previously weren't in. And so I want to know, like, you look for search terms and you look for a whole bunch of information around what might be an opportunity for somebody to sell. But are there any interesting trends that you're seeing right now in 2025?
Yeah, I definitely see there's a massive health trend. Some of them are not accurate, right? Like one of the brands in Titan that's really, really successful has taken junk food like Pop-Tarts and chips and things. I think you guys don't call them chips in Australia. Potato chips, like, I don't know.
No, we call them chips. It's the UK calls them crisps.
The UK that calls them French fries. I don't know. It's all confusing, right? So anyway, so there's this whole trend where people are using the GP1 or whatever it's called, the medication, right? And so there's like a lot of people that are very interested in high protein and lower sugar. And so what they did is they took junk food, added protein to it, fixed a few of the ingredients. This guy's doing 12 million a month on Amazon, Lisa. 12 million a month on Amazon from protein snacks. Yeah. So you can definitely, you can go and look at the Google Analytics. You can see different trends there's so many different ways to take a look at it. But if you see, okay, so these medications that help people have rapid weight loss are suggesting to have 120 to 150 grams of protein a day. If there's something that can help with that, maybe that's great. There's a lot of surgeries going on. For example, there's a lot of people who back in the day in Hollywood, you would get a nose job, but now it's much more common that people do these certain things. So there could be like products that, you know what I mean? Like there's just so many things that going on with society that if you just kind of play with it, I think people are much more interested in their health and anti-aging. You see even 20-year-olds who are concerned about wrinkles. When I was 20, I could care less. And they're buying the silk pillows to make sure that their skin is perfect. You know what I mean? So again, like that's a pillowcase, a silk pillowcase. That guy that I was telling you about that's selling silk pillowcases, he's selling them for $46 each. Those products are very, very high profit margins. So I think you just got to kind of play with it. And one of the things that we do, we have a trip called China Magic, and we actually go visit the suppliers. And we speak to the suppliers on what trends they're seeing and what kind of products that they are kind of up and coming, because then you can actually find out, like, for example, the people that got in on those oval makeup brushes back in the day when that became such a thing, whoever got in on that in the beginning, my goodness, like tens of millions of dollars. And it's just a makeup brush that happened to be shaped in a different way. So you can really build these relationships in China and work kind of backwards and actually work with the people who are supplying these products. You can work with the manufacturers of supplements. You can work with any of these guys, and you can actually figure out trends from the flip side, from the guys who are supplying the most, successful people on the planet.
Running an e-commerce business can feel lonely, right? Like no one in your world really understands what you do. And that's why I started SheCom, to create a space where women in e-commerce can connect, grow, and support each other. Whether you're starting or scaling to your biggest months yet, there's a place for you here inside SheCom. Inside of our community, we share strategies, wins, and real talk about what it takes to grow a brand you love. Come on over and join us at Instagram at SheCom_co, because happiness is better when we do it together. Right. And so let's talk about China Magic. And this is one of our clients over here at SheCom actually went on your China Magic trip a few months ago and loved it. And I want to know, so say, is China Magic, which just tell people what China Magic is for first to Canton. Let's set the context of tell them what Canton is even, Athena.
Absolutely. So early on in my progression with Amazon, I launched a couple of products, but one of the things that I struggled with, and I think this is a universal thing, is whenever I would develop a new product, it would take weeks, if not months sometimes, because we'd have to kind of turn things around, and mine were headbands and it was the color was a bit off, or, I wanted the logo just so. And I thought about this, and it's there's a big difference. And I shop online all the time. I'm obsessed with shopping online, but sometimes I'll try on a dress or whatever and I'll send it back, which is why I love Amazon, because you can kind of do that, or Nordstrom's or any of these things. But when it comes to China, I figured if I were to be able to go in person and be able to feel and touch and speak to the people directly, I could get done what normally takes weeks or months in a matter of minutes. I could feel the material. I could shift things, right? And I could find products I would have never even dreamed of finding. And so I went on somebody else's trip, and it was a disaster. It was about a few days, and they really didn't know how to properly deal and negotiate. None of that, right? They were just very Western about it. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to do this right. And I built a 10-day trip to China, where we go to the Canton Fair, which is the largest sourcing fair in the world. And I brought in guys who'd been sourcing for 25 years, who had the most ridiculous network all across China and knew all the little detail of how you present yourself, how you give your business card, when to speak about money, when you not, all these little details. And what I believe in, this is probably one of the things that I believe in the most, is when you can surround yourself with people who've had success, they've had decades of success and failures and trials and all different things, you can fast forward what would normally take you years in a matter of minutes or days. And so that's exactly what China Magic does. It takes you to the fair and to work with factories directly and find suppliers and create these products on the spot that you can then release at a much more rapid rate than you'd ever be able to, at pricing you would never get, and cash terms that are absolutely stunning. You've met Leiden and Georgie. They actually came on my trip to China. That's how I met Leiden. And Georgie was actually one of the attendees, and she was able to source products and things for her beautiful yoga brand. And that's actually how we met. And so that is what China Magic is. And it's still going to this day. We're going in April. We're going back in October.
So twice a year, our listeners can join you guys on this China Magic trip?
Yes, absolutely. And you don't have to know anything. I take you to the Four Seasons. I princess out China, basically. You get red carpeted the entire time. You get shown how to do this perfectly, and you get to develop products. And even if you're we've had extremely successful brands go in there, get a huge price reduction, find, new ideas, new products, all kinds of things. It's really important to go directly to China if you want to have any lasting success when it comes to product development.
I only wish this was around when I first launched my first China brand about 13 years ago, because I spent 2.5 years in R&D with China. And I had a big diaper brand, or a nappy brand, we call it in Australia, called Eco Originals, that's now sold in the States as well. And I had the delusional idea that it would take me 6 months to reinvent a nappy and create sections of the nappy that are traditionally using polyethylene packaging and use a compostable resin. That I already was working with an Australian listed resin company, but they were in China. And it took me 2.5 years. And I think in hindsight, I made all of the mistakes that you would recommend not to make. That's definitely my experience in China. And I eventually found the Sofitels in China that are much nicer to stay in than the hotels I originally stayed in. So I'm all about princessing, because China is not for the faint of heart. I still recall a really horrible memory. Whenever I think of China, I want to vomit. And it's because I went to this beautiful lunch. One of our suppliers took us out for a really special lunch, like a 10-course lunch at this restaurant. We had a private dining room, and I had my baby. She was only about 6 months old, maybe not even 3 or 4 months old. And she was in a baby beyond. And so we took her to lunch with us, and I made the mistake of eating the soup, which was the starter. And my husband at the time, he didn't. And it turned out that there was tepid water in the soup, and I got violently ill afterwards. And all I can remember when I think about this buying trip to China was my poor baby was in the baby beyond on my chest, like a baby carrier. And I vomited all over her head, and she, through the whole process, ended up covered in vomit. I was covered in vomit, and we arrived in a taxi at this hotel in the arse end of nowhere. And I just was covered in vomit, and I just had to stand at reception and wait to check into the room like a normal person with so much vomit that I had to do it over the bathtub and fill a bathtub with vomit. It was so disgusting. Anyway, I digress. The point is, we all need an Athena and a China magic tour so that we don't ever eat tepid soup and vomit all over our children in China. I wish for a ram when I first did my first buying trip to China.
You would have loved me. I pick you up in a luxury car and I take you everywhere and I concierge you and the whole thing, because
I might just come on one of your trips, Athena, just for reinventing my China memories.
I absolutely love that. I love that story. My goodness. But yeah, so China Magic is actually where Titan was born. Because what we would do is during the day, we would go and we would source products. But by the evening, we would mastermind and we would talk about Amazon and product development and pay-per-click and everything that we needed to talk about. And again, I would bring through people who were super expert in all these different topics. And I could see the progress that people were making from the get-go. And that was actually the first time I ever went to an Amazon event. I hosted a dinner there. And I asked people, like anyone who'd had major success, please stand up and tell us how you got to that first million. And people would get more value from that than they did from all these like rehearsed stage talks, which is why I love what you do with your community. I love your podcast. I love your soul because you are so straight. You've had so much success. You're showing it to others how they can do that and how they can avoid vomiting all over their baby by going on a trip, with an expert who's done it a million times, right? Like, I mean, oh my God, Lisa, the amount of times that I have made so many mistakes. Like my first 2 products were these yoga headbands, and I got so kind of obsessed with this whole thing that I jumped the gun and I thought I was Lululemon, and I decided to put $30,000 towards these yoga attire that I was not ready for. I bought them from downtown. They weren't even the best quality. I didn't even try them on before I purchased it. I had like 100 SKUs and I didn't even know how to do a flat file. And I was just crying at my computer, and I ended up donating all of it. I lost every penny. And at the time, that was like all my savings I put into those products. And if I would have had a mentor, or if I would have been part of a community, then I would have known like, okay, my first 2 products were excellent. Let's do some yoga socks or another headband or something that was more aligned to where I was at with my business. And so that's why I'm such a passionate proponent of surround yourself with the right people, learn from the ones who've made it, see who's living the life that you want to live and emulate that. Don't sit there and give up your children and your beautiful years working for someone else when you have the passion to live, right? And so I think that's why I've made this my life's work, is how can we shortchange the cycle? How can we find the shortcuts? How can we figure out what really works and what doesn't? And how do we speed that up so that we don't spend 5-10 years trying to figure out what we could do in 5 months? Because I want to go be on the beach with my kids and take my mom to Europe and do all the fun stuff that I've been able to do because I've done the hard work and I've made the mistakes and I kept getting back up, and I've met beautiful human beings like yourself who have made it, and I've learned from you and I've gathered you. And that's really what I think this life's about.
Oh, dude, I think you might be my sister from another mister. I think I couldn't agree with that any more than you just took the words out of my mouth. That's pretty much what we do here at Shecom. I think Titan and Shecom are like 2 halves of a whole, because we are the same on the more Shopify side and you're on the more Amazon side, but we fundamentally agree with everything you just said. And Shecom happened organically too, because people kept asking me and I kept them going to other people I knew. I was like, oh, you're really good at this. Can you help these people with this? And then you realize that actually life is so much more enjoyable if we do it together than doing it on our own. And in particular, I mean, we're only women. I know you're men and women, but women in particular, we are everything to everyone these days. And that is like so exhausting and soul destroying. And we deserve and have this like innate desire to connect with others and to be part of something. And so creating a community that allows people to feel connected, but also gets access to the information and the mentorship that they need to help them grow much faster. Like, I've always invested in that. Clearly, I should have invested in you a long time ago when I was bringing out my products. But listeners today, like, learn from this. Like, what we do at SheCom and what Titan do, they're like hand in hand alongside each other for helping women to create legacies, really, building empires. And it's totally doable. And I'm also 1000% in agreement with you, Athena, that I get really annoyed. Actually, I get quite outspoken with women who say to me, oh, it's really tough out there at the moment. And I'm like, well, but is it? Like, I know plenty of brands right now doing insane numbers and quite capable. I think it's about being innovative. And I think it's about, like, hustle hard. You can't stop and sit back and go, well, it didn't work for me. And I'm sure that you work of the same opinion, but I'm awake at 4 every morning. And yes, I go on holidays, and yes, I have a great life, but I never stop hustling on some level. And we pivot all the time in SheCom. Like, literally, we're like, okay, that didn't work. What can we do differently? Right. Go, let's do it, right? Like, there is no excuse for not succeeding in a brand unless you maybe just don't want it enough, or unless it isn't your version of success. And hats off to anyone who has a smaller version of success than I do. Mine is total world domination, and I'm pretty sure yours is too.
So you're my new best friend. My goodness, woman.
Well, here, Girl Crush has been had on a potty episode. I do love that.
Well, okay, so we are not only women, we're about 40% women, but in Amazon, that is unheard of. We're the only female and male owned mastermind in our space. So I'm kind of the only representative that actually does that.
Now,
right?
why are you the Amazon queen then, girl?
I love you. And so we literally had all these women, and we just had this moment of like, yes, a mother of sons. I didn't get a chance to ask you about your children. Do you have sons, daughters?
Yeah, no, I have a daughter. She's 14, and I just decided, and the listeners will be, I think, excited to hear this, but on this podcast, while I'm talking to Athena, I am bringing my 14-year-old daughter, with your permission, on China Magic.
Let's go.
As soon as we can line it up, because I believe as mums, I don't know how old your sons are, but we have an obligation to show our children that we don't have to go and work for the man. And my daughter is hating school. My listeners who follow me on socials will know this, that school is a real challenge, because most of us, and you mentioned you didn't go to high school. I did, but I wanted to drop out through all of it. And I fucking hated it. And it didn't make any sense to me. I couldn't retain the information. And yet I believe I'm one of the sharpest people I know. So it clearly is not lack of intelligence. It's the way that they teach kids at school. And my daughter thinks that she's dumb, and she's not. She's really smart. She just doesn't learn the way they're teaching her. And so I want to say fuck you to the schools, but equally I can't, because we have to work inside a system for now. My job is to make her see that there is an entrepreneurial path if she chooses to take it. And super funnily, I did a psychic reading just recently, and she said that Maya is going to have her own business. And so I take that as a challenge. I'm going to bring her on China Magic.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So first of all, my youngest is 14. And I'm planning, and my oldest is 17. I'm planning to take them as well to China with me, because we haven't done that. And I'm so with you. I want them building $1 million brand before the age of 20, so that they can have whatever choices they want. If they want to go to university, that's up to them. If they don't want to, I will never force them, but I am so aligned. And every day that I get up, I really want to inspire my boys. Like, that's really been like a huge driver for me. There was a point where I was in a wheelchair. I had a 5-hour surgery, and I couldn't even walk for a few minutes. I had to reteach myself to be able to walk. And if I didn't have the strength to even pull myself back up the pillow, and my then 15-year-old had to pull me back up, and I learned to walk again, and I kept doing it. And then I ended up doing F45. I'm not sure if you've done that before. It's
we have F45 here. Yeah.
Okay. It's HIIT training, and I would face plow, and I'd face plow, and I'd face plow. And my son was embarrassed to go with me. And I was like, no, baby, I got this. And I figured it out, and I jumped up on the thing. It only took me like 12 times of failing until I got back up, and number 13, there I was. And so I think for me, like, within the community, within my sons, within everything, it's like that perseverance, that persistence through anything and everything, that energy. When I have somebody come into our community that has that energy, I don't care what their bank account looks like. I don't care what their background looks like. What I care about is their spirit and their soul and their vibe of like, let's make something of our life. And it's okay if people want to make, 10 grand a month and they're happy with that, cool. If they want to make $1 million a month, then cool. Again, to me, it's about creating life with intention and building that world that you wake up every day and you're like, yes. Right. And so I think for you and I, gosh, we're aligned, and we just need to do everything we can to help with our backgrounds to support people in building that, because that's the thing. And then the next generation, they can avoid all of the mistakes that we've made and all the time that we wasted, because they can start their life off with already having that freedom and inspire others to do the same. And one day we'll have a world where people don't have to regret most of their life sitting in an office that isn't their thing. You know what I mean? Because that's not living.
Whew, that's some powerful stuff, girl. And you know what else? Like, I have all these clever questions to ask for the last question of the podcast, but you pretty much, any of the ones I would have asked you, you probably just would have answered with that segue that you just gave it. Which was like, what's your best life lesson? What would you like to say to yourself when you were younger? I feel like you just answered it all, but is there any last piece of advice that you feel that you've learned in your whole entrepreneurial journey, like a quote or something that you feel gives you strength in those moments, of which I'm sure you also have a fuck ton of them, of like, oh my God, what am I doing? This is too hard. Maybe I don't want to do this anymore. Like, what's your moment?
Well, okay, couple things. One, as are you, I can just tell it from your energy. Like, I'm here to help, right? If people want to get onto this platform, reach out to me. I will do everything in my power to help you guys get there. It is doable. It is attainable. And I really the more I get to know Lisa, the more I feel like we're so just going to help you guys together, because together we are stronger is our motto. And so I'm here for it. But I'll tell you one little thing that happened, actually bringing it back to that same surgery. I wasn't scared of this surgery until I was about to go, because then I realized as I was leaving the house, I might not come back, right? Because it was a pretty intense one. I had a hernia the size of a lemon. And so in that moment, I thought, I need to write a note to my boys, because what if this is the last moment for me? And I wrote a couple things. Your mother loves you, blah, blah, blah. The last sentence that I wrote for my boys, I'm going to choke up, is, I hope you live beautifully. I want you to have all the money. I want you to do this. I want you to go there. I want you to live beautifully. And my wish for anyone hearing this is to somehow be able to support you in figuring out what that means to you, and for you to go ahead and do that.
On that note, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today. I also wish to live a life beautifully, as I'm sure you do too. Find you somewhere really soon to have a squish in real life. But it has been a pleasure to chat to you today, Athena. If anybody would like to find out more about how to contact Athena, head to our show notes or head to titannetworks.com. Would I be right?
titannetwork.com. If you guys are curious about China Magic, it would be chinamagictrip.com. And it seems like we're going to have a mom and
it seems like they're going to see you on it. I'm pretty sure Leiden was already trying to line us up to go on one of them. So I reckon that we might just see, we'll have to do a She-Com Titan China Magic. Trip, I reckon.
They have a fabulous spa and salon in the Four Seasons.
We all need that. Thank you so much, sweetheart.
Thank you, darling.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of She Talks. I hope today's conversation sparked ideas, gave you strategies you can put into action, and reminded you that you're never alone on this journey. If you loved this episode, head over to shecom.co for today's show notes, exclusive freebies, and special offers from our sponsors. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe so you never miss a future episode. Until next time, keep showing up, keep building, and most importantly, keep talking.